For the 1-point perspective drawing for ages 10 to 11, I'm going to assume that most of the students have been exposed to the idea of perspective drawing before. So in this project, we're going to be doing a refresher of it, but ultimately letting the students create their building on their own and allowing them to really take ownership of the process and do it at their own pace and add as many levels as they wish to. Either way though, we are going to start off the students by showing them what to do and then letting them go. So step 1 is have all the students draw their horizon line across the paper. Mine is lower than center and it separates the sky from the land. On this horizon line, we do a vanishing point. We want to make sure that the vanishing point for this project is way off to the right-hand side. It can be near the edge, it can be right on the edge, but either way, we're going to need it over to the right. Our building is going to be on the left, and that's going to give us space to draw the lines back there. In the lesson plan on the diagram of how to do this drawing, you're going to see that the square lands on the horizon line. However, to give the students a lot of space to draw a tall building, I'm going to start with the 2" by 2" square below my horizon line. So we'd have the students pick a place to start the bottom of their building below the horizon line, off to their left, and then draw their 2" square like that. The front of the building faces us, so it does not need to go back into space because it perfectly lines up with our field of vision. However, the side of the building does go back. It does start to look three-dimensional. So this is where we remind them how to do 1-point perspective. We take the side of our shape and we line up the ruler with that point and the vanishing point, and we draw a straight line backwards. We're going to do the same thing with the front corner. We're going to line up our ruler with the front corner and the vanishing point and pull that back into space. Right now we have the front of a cube and the side, but it goes on for infinity. We want a wall of a building, so we need to find an ending point and use our ruler to do a vertical line down like that. These other lines will eventually be erased, so we can remind students to draw really, really lightly. Typically, to finish the cube, we would do a line from this third corner back, but because we're going to be adding lots of levels to the building, that would be hidden anyway, so we don't need to do that. What we are going to do is going to add the roof. So using our oils vocabulary, I will add a curved line to the left, do a mirror image of that curved line on the right, and I'm also going to be doing a curved line at the back. But will this curved line be the same or different than these ones in the front? What happens as things go back towards the vanishing point? They get smaller. So this curved line will be smaller than the ones in front, and that is also giving us this idea of it going back smaller towards that horizon. I'll use a curved line again to connect the corners of the 2 curves I just did. This one also gets curved and goes back towards our vanishing point because it's on this side wall that goes backwards. So hopefully this cube is a refresher of this 1-point perspective drawing, and now you can allow the students to build up as many stories of this pagoda as they wish on their own. Some students will get it right away and they can start adding to it. Some students you might need to work with a little bit one-on-one to help them get the idea of repeating these steps over and over. For the second story, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing where we start with a flat shape, but this one's going to be more of a shorter rectangle. And the students can now begin building up these stories like that with shorter rectangles each time, or a shorter rectangle each time. Now the side wall, what happens? We know from the first time we did this, we line up the corner and it goes to the vanishing point. So I'll do the same thing. This one is actually above the horizon line now, so instead of going up towards the vanishing point, it goes down towards the vanishing point, but it's still the same idea that they go towards the vanishing point. This wall should not go on forever. Where should it end? Right here at the other wall. So I'm going to do a vertical line connecting that. And now it's just repeating over and over. And obviously we know the more repetition, the more something gets cemented in our head. So that's why we are doing this. We are wanting the students to do the same idea again and again, building this up So they really remember how to use the idea of the vanishing point. So again, some students might want to do 2 or 3 stories of this pagoda. Some students might want to do 7 or 8 or 9, however they can fit on their paper. But the idea is that now they can take the idea and begin to run with it, getting smaller here, and begin to run with it and begin to design and build up their own as they see fit. So everyone's will look quite different from each other. Whoops, it's starting to get a little wonky. I'm not using a ruler, but you get the idea that they begin to build and build and build as high as they want to go. For the final rooftop, you do the same idea where you start with these curved lines. The 2 are a mirror image and the one in the back is smaller, and we start to recede back towards that. But the difference is that now we're going to add the final roof. So I go from the middle of the section with my finger, pull up, find the place to do the dot that's centered, and then I can do my curved lines up to that rooftop. So now, and again, if I was using a ruler, this would be a nice straight tall pagoda with as many levels as the student wants, a final roof, and then they can start adding the details. So they might want to have a really tall, crazy spire. They can begin to add details such as wooden slats or doors or whatever type of interesting things they wanted there. But the place where it gets a little bit difficult to figure out how to do our details is on the side that recedes back towards the vanishing point. Any lines that are vertical stay vertical. They simply go between the angled lines that we've already drawn. The tricky part is the lines that go sideways, and we still need to line up these lines to the vanishing point. So we could do a dot where the line starts, line up our ruler to the vanishing point, and still do a line that goes back. So we see that we're still using the idea of 1-point perspective, even as we do details on the side of our building. So again, we're practicing this over and over again, lining up things to this point on the side that goes back, back, back into space. The things on the front just stay as they are. Simple, simple. Once the students have their pagoda, and if there's time left, they can begin adding a seasonal landscape. Some students might just work so much on the details of this that they won't have time to add anything else, and that's totally fine. Students who finish this quickly will have time to add what other type of landscape they want with trees and mountains and whatever that looks like for them. And if there's time after that, of course, they can color, just depending on how much one student finishes earlier than the others, have those colored pencils available.